Panama City wasn't initially on my radar of places I intended to visit in this new year. But now that I'm here, I am so freaking excited. Flying in from Baltimore, where the weather has been cold and dreary, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin is euphoric. This trip was actually my husband's idea, and I'm thankful he chose Panama City as our first international destination to kick off the year because I knew very little about this small yet dynamic and prosperous Central American nation. In preparation for our visit, I started to do a bit of research, as I always do, and quickly became intrigued not only by its beauty, but by the culture and its history. Named after a chief from a local native tribe, Tocumen International Airport is one of the main international airports in Panama City. Instead of hailing a taxi, we opted to take an Uber, which only cost us around $13 US to get from the airport to our Airbnb flat. Yep, I was loving this place already. And side note, the US dollar is the national currency in Panama, so no concern over foreign transaction fees or need to exchange cash at the airport. I would recommend, however, that you purchase an eSIM for around $20, good for 7 days before heading out of the airport. Depending on traffic, the airport is around 15 to a 25-minute scenic drive to the city center. And good morning, guys. Welcome back to a new video. If this is your first time stopping by, hello, my name is Sade. Guys, we are in the beautiful country of Panama City, and we've been here about 2 days now, just kind of easing in, getting a sense or a vibe of the country. But today is actually going to be our first day exploring. My husband was kind enough to book a full day private tour, so the driver is downstairs ready to pick us up and show us around the city, and I'm hoping to take you guys along with me, so thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome to Panama City. So we opted for a private full-day tour reserved on Viator, hiring a tour driver in this deluxe SUV for around $240 US, not including tips. So between the three of us, it was around $80, not too bad. And it does get us out of the sun for a bit, you know. It is the month of January, but because Panama is situated so close to the equator, temperatures are currently in the high 80s and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Panama is known for getting lots of rain during the year. However, during their dry season, which is typically around mid-December to mid-April, you can expect a few showers, but otherwise the weather is quite pleasant. We have about a 30-minute drive from the city center through what was previously the Canal Zone, owned and operated by the U.S. until the 70s, before arriving at Panama Canal's Miraflores Visitor Center. Miraflores is a canal lock entrance on the Pacific side of the country, and what's nice is that this visitor center totally plays up to the crowd, providing a platform where visitors can witness the canal locks and maritime trade in action. The main visitor center hosts around 820,000 visitors a year. Our tour didn't include a ticket, so we waited in a short line to purchase our entrance pass for around $18 for non-Panamanian adults. Panamanian residents, however, only paid $3 admission, and kids do enter in for free under the age of 6. All right, so we're at the Miraflores, I think it's called, lock. and we're lucky because there's an actual ship waiting to pass through, which doesn't typically happen. So we're gonna see if we can go up to the viewpoint to see if we can get a better look. Okay, I have to be honest with you. Panama City has already surprised me in ways I wasn't expecting. And standing here watching these locks in action at the Miraflores Visitor Center, I'm feeling something I didn't anticipate. Pure awe. I mean, think about it. Over a century ago, engineers and laborers through blood, sweat, and sheer determination turned one of the most ambitious ideas into reality. And here I am, watching it work as flawlessly today as it did back then. The Panama Canal isn't just a waterway, it is a masterpiece of human ingenuity. The canal took 10 years to build, from 1904 to 1914, and that's after the French tried and failed before the Americans took over. And speaking of mind-blowing numbers, get this. The locks here at Miraflores are 33.5 meters, or 110 feet wide, and 305 meters, or 1,000 feet long enough to fit an entire skyscraper laid on its side. So, how does all this work? The lock system is basically a water elevator. Gravity moves the water in and out of massive chambers, raising or lowering ships as they travel between the Pacific and the Atlantic. No pumps, just physics and precision. And patience, because it takes around 8 to 10 hours for a ship to pass completely through the canal, from one ocean to the other. The cost? Oh, you might want to sit down for this one. The average fee for a large container ship to cross around the canal is around $400,000. And smaller vessels, it can still be tens of thousands. Crazy, right? When you think about how this canal shaves off nearly 8,000 miles of travel around South America, it makes sense. Back in the 1900s, the idea of slicing a passage through an entire country was almost impossible. The locks are one of the most innovative systems of their time. And over 100 years later, they still work seamlessly. And that is why I'm standing here, watching this all happen in real time. It is surreal. I expected Panama City to be cool, but this is on another level. And this is just the beginning of my journey here. Beyond the mechanics of the canal itself, there is a history here that is just as fascinating and a lot more complex. For decades, this area wasn't even considered a part of Panama. It was a U.S.-controlled territory known as the Canal Zone, a stretch of land extending 5 miles on either side of the canal. It was a little slice of America in the middle of Central America, complete with American-style houses, military bases, schools, and even bowling alleys. Fun fact, the U.S. presence here wasn't just about running the canal, it was full-on military occupation. Surprise, surprise. Soldiers were stationed here to quote-unquote protect the canal, but over time, tensions between Zonians and Panamanians escalated. And then there was January 9th, 1964. A day that changed everything. Panamanian students attempted to raise their national flag inside of the canal zone, but American soldiers and Zonian residents responded with brutal force. At least 20 Panamanians were killed and many more injured. This event, known as Martyrs' Day, became a turning point in Panama's fight to reclaim its land. And that fight eventually led to this moment. In 1977, U.S. President Jimmy Carter signed a treaty officially giving Panama full control of the canal and the canal zone by year 2000. It was a historic shift, one that Panamanians had waited decades for. And just look at what has happened since. Since taking control in 1999, Panama has boomed. The country transformed the canal into this massive economic engine, modernized its infrastructure, and turned Panama into one of the most prosperous capitals in Central America. But some of the coolest remnants of the canal's history are hiding in unexpected places. The Amador Causeway, this beautiful stretch of road connecting 4 small islands in the Pacific, was actually built using leftover rock and debris from the canal's construction. What was once rubble is now one of the most scenic drives in the city. And speaking of unexpected sights, Yes, sloths. Fun fact, it's not unusual to spot sloths hanging out of trees around the canal or even parts of the city. They're protected animals in Panama, so if you're lucky enough to see one, enjoy, but from a respectful distance. And here's what I love most, the view that ties all of Panama's history together. On one side, you have Casco Viejo, the old city filled with colonial charm and centuries of history. On another, you have a skyline that could rival Miami or Dubai. It's that mix of old and new, struggle and triumph, history and progress that makes Panama City so much more than I ever expected. We just wrapped up quite an incredible dinner at El Trapiche, which I was told was an Afro-Panamanian themed restaurant, but honestly a lot that was on the menu could have been eaten at any local Panamanian restaurant, but nonetheless really good day here in Panama, exploring the city. Tomorrow, honestly, we don't have very much planned, just to kind of enjoy ourselves because we're on vacation after all. There are a few other spots that I definitely want to check out and take you guys along with us, so I guess we'll catch you guys in the morning. Guys, welcome back. We are in the Mercado de Mariscos, which is the fish market here in the heart of Panama City. This is about as fishy as it gets. Fresh seafood brought off from the local fishermen on the harbor in the bay, cleaned up and brought into the fish market. And despite it being a fish market, it actually doesn't smell as bad as I thought it was going to be. But it is really cool to see kind of how it's done farm to table, or seat to table style rather. Prices seem to be pretty reasonable. Like, I think sea bass is quite expensive back home, but here it's like $3 a pound. So I think that's not too bad. I don't know too much about it, but it seems like it's reasonable. There are tons of restaurants here as well. So we're definitely gonna go check that out and learn a little bit more about this market. If you really want to understand a place, its people, its culture, you have to taste it. And in a city surrounded by water, that means one thing: seafood. Panama's connection to the ocean runs deep, and you can see it and smell it right here at Mercado de Mariscos. Fun fact, this market was actually built with help from Japan, a country that knows a thing or two about seafood. And today, it is the best place in the city to experience Panama's coastal flavors, fresh, citrusy, and a little spicy. This is the taste of Panama City, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Seems like we're getting here kind of towards the end of the day. This market opens at 5 in the morning, so I'm assuming if any local restaurants, hotels, people who own and sell food, I guess, come here super early to be able to get their fish and get out, because now a lot of the places are closing, but we were able to get a glimpse inside, as you saw. Very interesting, and I don't know why. I'm still trying to research as to why, but Japan, the country of Japan, donated just under $8 million to construct this place, and it's only been open since I think 1995, which, given that this city is right on the ocean, you would expect something like this would have been here for hundreds of years, but this is actually a relatively newer market, but still really cool and fascinating just to kind of see how like the daily life goes, and, you know, showing the culture of the city and its gastronomy, living and working and eating near the city, or excuse me, near the ocean. All right, that's crazy. So we were chatting a little bit with one of the owners of the fish shop. So it seems like there's lots of vendors that, you know, rent out these spaces. And she's saying this section of the fish market opens up at 2 in the morning, 2 a.m. They've been here, and sometimes earlier. And they'll close around 10-ish. So clearly there's a big market for this here. And obviously I think the timing depends on, you know, people from the restaurants People from the hotels come and get their fresh fish from here. So it would make sense. No, gracias. So it would make sense that they would open up at those hours because, you know, people are starting to prep the meals and get the food ready for the day. But really cool and interesting. No, gracias. We're risking our lives here. Gracias. Trying to do what the locals do, while also trying not to get run over across from the Mercado. We made it. So conveniently across, or in the same vicinity as the fish market, is Casco Viejo, which is, I think, also called Casco Antiguo, so like an old colonial part of town. We drove through it briefly yesterday, as you guys saw, but today we're actually gonna walk, get on the ground, and explore a little bit more. It looks so beautiful from the ride, so I'm really looking forward to checking out the shops and the cafes and the restaurants and just the old-timey aesthetic that I love so much about, you know, the older part of the city versus Panama, which is also so modern. So let's check it out. A few things of note. So despite the city, for the most part, the touristy parts of town being very pedestrian friendly, one, you need to watch out for hazards in the sidewalks because there could randomly be a hole in the ground that isn't covered, or, you know, no warnings or caution signs around it, potholes, holes that have been broken in half kind of sticking up, so it can be kind of dangerous. And then also, secondly, because it's so hot, you know, we were thinking we would get a little beer, walk around with it, but you're not allowed. It's against the law to walk around with open alcoholic beverages. So something to keep in mind. I mean, if you have your little water mug, no one's gonna, unless you're being a disturbance, I guess no one's gonna try and search you, but just be mindful of that.
Vamos pra batucada, bater tambor, toque do atabaque e do agogô. Vamos pra batucada, bater tambor, toque do atabaque e do agogô. Tambor mandou chamar. Mandou chamar. Vamos na batucada, bater tambor, toque do atabaque e do agogô. Tambor mandou chamar. Tambor mandou chamar. Chamar. Tambor mandou chamar.
We just spent a couple of hours at, you know, a local bar, cafe, and the sun is getting ready to set shortly, but I'm just so mesmerized with how quaint and beautiful and aesthetically pleasing the old town is. these old colonial styles building, and the mixtures between those that have been renovated and those that are still quite dilapidated. It's just gorgeous and just so peaceful. You hear birds chirping. Definitely worth coming out to Casco Viejo, either staying, renting an Airbnb or getting a hotel for a night or two, or just spending the entire day out here. Definitely worth it. Round 2, happy hour. Someone's caught us on the streets, and apparently it's like a rooftop bar. 2 for 1, margaritas, mojitos. So
Tambo mando chamar. Vamos na batucada. Vamos na batucada. Vamos na batucada. Vamos na batucada. Tambo mando chamar. Tambo mando chamar.
And good morning, guys. Welcome to a next day. Gosh, I don't know what this vlog is gonna turn out to be. I've just been enjoying myself and vlogging here and there throughout the week, so I'm sorry if we're kind of jumping around. But anyways, I do want to point out that we spent the first half of this week 3 nights in an Airbnb, and we have now transitioned to the W Hotel, which is a Marriott Bonvoy brand. And we have this incredible suite that we got upgraded to, which is so nice. If you're not a Bonvoy member, you know, these are some of the perks that you get if you happen to join, and it's a free membership actually. So we try and stay at Bonvoy hotels as much as possible to kind of build up our status and be able to take advantage of upgrades such as this one. It's a corner view room where you can see the entire skyline of Panama City. I think I'm gonna do a full tour and review of this hotel, so if you guys are interested in that, be sure to subscribe down below. It'll likely be like the next video, but so we have about 3 more days here in the city, and we didn't have much planned, so we kind of booked one of these hop on hop off buses, which kind of will take us around the city to get a view of like the wider landscape of the city, as we've been spending most of our time in the city center. Our bus stop is only a couple of blocks away from our hotel, so I think we're gonna head out here soon and jump on that. It's a little overcast today. We've gotten really lucky with the weather, so I'm hoping that the sun holds up just for today, because we're gonna do a little bit more exploring. So, all right, enough of me talking, let's get to it. So we've made it to the city sightseeing tour bus stop. We spent about $30 US for this tour. It takes us on a grand loop around the city that lasts about 2 hours. I'm told that the bus, you know, depending if you guys want to get off on either stop, the bus loops around every hour and 15 minutes, which is kind of a long delay, but at least it'll give you some time, enough time to be able to explore if you decide to hop off on the bus. I will note that, again, we're doing this kind of as an activity so we can get a larger sense of the city and the landscape and other things there are to do. But it is also very commuter and pedestrian friendly here. So like our Uber from the airport, we came in around noon on a Saturday, only cost us around $13 to $15, which I think is really affordable. The airport is not very far outside of the city center, maybe like a 15-minute car ride. My mother-in-law came in more around rush hour time frame in the afternoon, and it cost her roughly around the same. If you take an Uber from where we are in the financial district over to Old Town, which is called Casco Viejo or Casco Antiguo, that Uber was $3. You can also walk, it's like 2-3 miles, the strip. You can bike, it's pedestrian friendly. There are path specifically dedicated to bikers and walkers, joggers. So it is really safe to kind of get around the city and efficient. Otherwise, you know, you can rent a car. There are other options here. I wouldn't recommend it if you just plan on staying in the city. And I believe there are also buses that can take you out to the canal. So that shouldn't even be an issue. We opted to do the private tour just because we wanted a little bit more historical context. But I am very pleased that if you're a tourist traveling by yourself or just wanting to keep things low budget, it's definitely possible to get around without having to dig too deep in your pockets. Now, a fun and relaxing way to see Panama City is from up here, on a hop-on, hop-off bus that takes you through the heart of it all. And when I say heart, I don't just mean Panama, I mean for the world. This city is a global hub of commerce, a critical artery in international trade thanks to the canal. After visiting the canal, it's easy to see why every major power, not just the US, has historically wanted control over it. Now, I don't condone the American occupation, but I can understand why nations saw the canal as something they needed to protect. And yet, despite all of that history, there are still people today who question whether Panama is capable of managing its own canal. Some call it politics, others call it outright disinformation and/or discrimination. Either way, Panamanians take serious offense to this because let me tell you, from what I took away from speaking to a few local Panamanians about this topic is that they will fight to the death to ensure that the canal stays Panamanian. And they should. The canal has transformed this country's economy and given Panama a level of prosperity and influence that many never expected. But here's the thing about Panama. It's not just about the canal. It's about pride. One thing that keeps standing out to me is how deeply Panamanians love their country. And it makes sense, right? Panama is a melting pot. People from all over the world have settled here. Chinese immigrants came to build the railroad. Jamaicans came to work on the canal. Europeans brought their influences. And of course, Panama's indigenous communities remain a crucial part of its identity. It's this blend of cultures that makes Panama feel different. You see all walks of life here living together, coexisting. Now, that's not to say everything is perfect. Panama has its struggles just like anywhere else. Economic disparities, political debates, and social issues exist here too. But what stands out to me is, despite it all, Panamanians have built a country that they are truly proud of. And honestly, after spending some time here, I can see why. Back in Casco Viejo, I find myself in a small trendy cafe, the kind of place where time slows down. I've been sitting here nearly 2 hours just reading, journaling, and letting myself be. My 38th birthday is just a few days away, and I can't help but feel overwhelmingly grateful for this moment, for this experience, for the chance to explore the world. Traveling has never just been about new places for me. It's about connection, about understanding. It's a reminder that I'm not just a citizen of the US. I consider myself a citizen of the world. The start of 2025 has been rough, to say the least. It feels like anxiety is at an all-time high, with men fighting stupid wars and the world feeling more divided than ever. It's overwhelming at times, but I'm grateful to have this brief respite to escape, even just for a little while. Walking these streets, I keep admiring these crumbling buildings, remnants of a different time, barely holding on. And honestly, that's how the world feels right now. Fragile, weathered, on the verge of collapse, but somehow still standing. But history teaches us something. There are always people who, despite the pressure to do the contrary, choose to do the right thing. Jimmy Carter giving the canal back to Panama was one of those moments. I'm sure he faced opposition, but integrity matters. Doing what's right matters. You know, one of my favorite things about flying is this. When you look down, you don't see borders. You don't see countries. You just see Earth, the home we all share. Every living being on this planet existing under the same sky. So in a few days, I'll be 38, another loop around the sun, and I couldn't be more thankful. Thankful to be here, to be alive, to see the world. Thankful to Panama for reminding me of how beautiful and inclusive the world can be. I didn't know what to expect before coming here, but what I didn't expect was to leave a little piece of my heart behind. Thank you, Panama, and thank you for watching.